affordable housing and funding of the Barnes Fund. Our cry has always been recurring. There is no line item that says the Barnes Fund. So every year, every budget cycle, it's a struggle. Every budget cycle, we have to compete. Every budget cycle, we wonder what's going to happen. And $30 million is just the beginning. When we compare it to our peer cities like Austin, Jacksonville, and several of the others, particularly Austin has almost doubled that amount, and that's a several years old statistic. Yep. So I beg you, please do not forget the significance of affordable housing and how it is an integral process of a city if it wants to be just, if it wants to be equitable, if it wants to take care of all of its citizens, and if it wants to leave nobody behind, especially the children. 30 million is a drop in the bucket. It's just the beginning. But we need to fight for that and continue to fight for recurring funding in the budget for the Barnes Fund. Now, it's going to take more than NOAA. It's going to take more than the number of us gathered here. We need to have lenders on board. We need to have developers on board. We need to have businesses on board. We need to have the healthcare industry, which is our major industry, on board, because there are health consequences when people are ill out. I won't belabor this point, but I want to just say, be encouraged, fight hard, and the battle continues. Thank you.
You know, anybody that lives in Nashville, and most of the people that just drive through the city, know that we're in an affordable housing crisis. We've got two folks that are going to speak briefly to that crisis, give you a few more statistics. And by the way, statistics are an interesting thing. Don't let your eyes glaze over when you hear statistics. Every time you hear a percentage or income level, think to yourself, that's a family. That's a child that may not have a place to live. So I want to invite Ken Chilton. Excuse me, I'm backwards. I was gonna invite Kenetha Patterson. You got me all upset here talking about kids. You know. Kenetha Patterson is a member of the NOAA Affordable Housing Task Force. She has lived experience of housing insecurity, and she's the chair of the Nashville-Davidson County Homelessness Planning Council. She was recently recognized with an award by the National Low-Income Housing Coalition.
Woo! I didn't expect that, Mr. Mike. Thank you. Phenomenal day to you all, and I am talking about the Barnes Fund and Nashville's housing crisis, which we all know. We just heard from Ms. Paulette about what that's about. But fun fact, 10 years ago, I literally started out at Edge Hill UMC alongside Noah then as well, and I was sitting at Reverend Bill Barnes' desk. It has always been a huge honor. My name is Miss Kenetha, the homeless CEO Patterson, storyteller of poverty and homelessness. I'm a Section 8 voucher holder, award-winning resident leader, and a national and global peer-to-peer unhoused lived expertise enhanced asset and ambassador. I serve on the NOAA Affordable Housing Task Force amongst many other executive hats in Nashville-Davidson County pertaining to ending homelessness and poverty. I'm here today because Nashville is clearly in a housing crisis, and the people living through it have been sounding the alarm long before the data ever caught up. Right now, 82% of Nashvillians say they cannot afford to buy a home. That's not a statistic. That's a warning. That is families being priced out of the city that they built. That is workers commuting from counties they never wanted to leave. That is elders being displaced from neighborhoods where they raised generations. We also know that Nashville needs 20,000 affordable homes by 2035, and we are not going to get there by underfunding the one tool that has consistently delivered results. So, the Barnes Fund is Nashville's most effective tool, most accountable, and most community-centered housing tool. When we invest in it, homes get built. When we underfund it, people fall through the cracks. A full $30 million investment in the Barnes Fund is not an optional thing. It is the floor we need just to keep our city afloat.
Yep.
And the community is watching to see whether our elected leaders choose stability or scarcity.
Yep.
Right.
I speak not just as an advocate, but as someone who knows that affordable housing makes possible. When I finally had stable, affordable housing, it allowed me to recover and heal from fatal hospice caregiving. My family was a first-time death doula to my mother-in-law. It allowed me to give back to my community. It allowed me to build our family, build leadership, build a life rooted in dignity instead of survival mode. Housing didn't just give me a roof, it gave me room to breathe, to grow, and to lead. That is what the Barnes Fund does. It creates the conditions for people to thrive, not just survive. So today, I and we are asking our city to invest in the people who make Nashville what it is the most. Invest in us, the workers making tourism tick, the caregivers, the elders, the youth, families. We are the neighbors who show up for each other when systems don't. Fund the Barnes Fund at $30 million, plus I say tourism and developer funds and GO bonds for the city. Because building and creating housing actually will end homelessness, not hiding. Because this is not any back burner issue. Because Nashville deserves a future where every single one has a place to call home. All humans. Thank you so very much.
Now I'd like to call on Dr. Ken Chilton, who's a professor in public administration at Tennessee State University. He's done extensive research on housing policy and affordability. And even more than that, he helps the rest of us understand it.
Can attest. I have a long history of making students' eyes glaze over, but I only have a few minutes today, so bear with me. Nashville was kind of at the vanguard in terms of establishing the Barnes Fund. They recognized in 2013 we had an affordability problem in Nashville. At that time, the median home price was about $177,000. At that time, average rents were about $850. Median income was lower, but it tells you how much things have changed. All right. During that time, in 2013, a single-family home cost about 3.7 times the median household income. Today, that ratio is about 5.6. If you look at the income required to buy a house sustainably without spending more than 35% of your income or 33% of your income, you need an income of about $120,000 to buy the median priced home today. That's about 30% of Nashvillians. Another 30% of Nashvillians earn less than $50,000 per year. Right? Sustainable rent for $50,000, remember a lot of them are earning less than $50,000, is $1,250 a month. So good luck finding apartments at less than $1,200 a month. All right? I just did a quick Google search last night on one of the realtor sites, and I looked at single-family homes in Davidson County. There's about 3,536 on the market right now. And I put in a filter of homes that cost less than $300,000. It came back with 3.4%. And most of those homes that I looked at looked like they needed hundreds of thousands of dollars of renovation. And home ownership is very important for a variety of reasons, but especially for working class people. It's how traditionally they've gained wealth and passed it on to their heirs. And inasmuch as the housing crisis in Nashville robbed people of the opportunity to buy a home, to build equity, intergenerational wealth is lost. All right? Right now, according to, again, Zillow, rents for apartments generally range from about $1,500 to $2,500, with the average about $2,100 a month. I also looked at some of the cities that have gotten a lot of good press for being more progressive and more innovative on affordable housing funding. Places like Minneapolis, Austin, Charlotte, Raleigh, North Carolina. Their rents are lower than Nashville. Their home prices are lower than Nashville. home ownership rates are higher in those cities, whereas the Nashville home ownership rate has not really recovered from the pandemic. It's continued to go down. So what started as a affordability problem in 2013 is now a 5-alarm fire in Nashville. And we need not just the Barnes Fund. I think $30 million, that's great. It used to be $10 million, but given the inflation, given the higher costs, given the community need, I think that we can do more in Nashville to catch up with some of those cities that have done more, and we can learn from them. Metro's made tourism a priority. We get national accolades for that. We've made sporting events and stadiums happen. We've come up with hundreds of millions of dollars to do those things. Yet the very people who make that economy function and thrive are the very people who can't afford to live here. So moving forward, I encourage Nashville to continue its investments in the Barn Fund and to continue to look forward at other cities that are doing even more to help people find a sustainable house. Thank you.
I told you could interpret things. Now we wanted, if you see on your agenda, we want to spend a couple of minutes talking about why the Barnes Fund works. We repeated that phrase over and over, the Barnes Fund, the Barnes Fund. And we want you to know why it works. So first we have Anton Christensen Galena, who is a data analyst, and he's the vice chair of the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission. That's a long name for the Barnes Fund Commission.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anton Christensen Galena, and I'm on the commission that oversees the Barnes Fund. Here's the situation. If you're making $4,500 per month and you're paying half of that in rent, there's not much left over to feed your kids and pay your bills. Nashville needs 20,000 new homes just for families at that income level. Today, the most effective tool that the city has to meet this need is the Barnes Fund. Last year, with $35 million, the Barnes Fund backed the construction of nearly 800 homes and attracted $274 million of outside investment. Here's how it works. The Barnes Fund gives money to nonprofits to build houses. The nonprofits bring their proposals to a commission, which grades projects and decides whether or not they would be a good use of our city's money. Last year, we were only able to fund half the projects that the nonprofits brought to us. We said no to a lot of projects that I wish we'd been able to fund. But what we have been able to fund and build has been spectacular. The magic of the Barnes Fund is the creativity of the nonprofits. They bring us projects that couldn't get built in other cities. We've supported projects like the homes behind me, built on church land. We funded a beautiful house on a flower farm for expectant mothers. We funded a project that refurbished an old motel to give teens who'd aged out of orphanages a place to call home instead of being left to the streets. Across the country, other cities have been calling our city asking about the Barnes Fund. Why? Because we built a successful tool to help nonprofits build homes for people. We built policies and procedures that ensure that the homes are built to high environmental, accessibility, and building standards. We've built thousands of good homes for thousands of families. As a city, we should be proud of the Barnes Fund. I am, and Nashville needs it fully funded so that one day, nobody in the city has to pay more than a third of their income just to stay in their home.
Data analyst. I didn't know he's a public speaker, but this is great. I also want to introduce to you Councilmember Berkeley Allen. She's a senior mechanical engineer and an at-large member of the Metro Council. She began as a leader in her own neighborhood and then was elected as Metro Council member for the 18th District, later winning election as an at-large council member. She's been very active in affordable housing issues and recently became a member of the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission, the Barnes Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. It is so thrilling to stand here on the site of housing opportunities made possible by the partnership between a church, a builder, and Metro government. And I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the legislation that created the Barnes Housing Trust Fund. Since its first award in 2014, the Barnes Fund has led to the creation or preservation of over 7,000 affordably priced for rent. Of Metro's growing selection of housing tools, the Barnes Fund is one of the most successful programs. As the mayor and the Metro Council make hard choices necessary to balance the budget for the next fiscal year, it is important to remember that every $1 spent through the Barnes Housing Trust Fund leverages $10 in housing output. Of all the ways that Metro directs funding to incentivize housing construction, the Barnes Fund delivers the biggest bang for the buck. Combining Metro or institutional land with nonprofit builder know-how, grants from the Barnes Fund serve as a foundation for accessing reduced interest rate loans or other types of funding that require that first-in funding. If you don't have the Barnes Fund, you can't get all the other money in that very complicated capital stack. It grows and builds. This very effective housing tool gives residents a chance at security, housing stability, and generational wealth. That financial security can help reduce the need for social services and the negative impacts of being unhoused. Making this smart investment in the Barnes Fund now can save Metro money on treating problems down the line. I'm joined by my council predecessors on the Housing Trust Fund Commission and other council members who support full funding of Barnes in asking the mayor to include the full $30 million recommended in the Unified Housing Strategy in this year's budget.
Okay, you've heard about NOAA, you've heard about the Barnes Fund. Now let's talk a little bit about the potential of the Barnes Fund, even beyond what it's already done. We've invited various developers, nonprofit developers, to come and talk to us briefly. Everybody gets 2 minutes, okay? NOAA tries to be clear about time. But I'd like to call on, to start with, I'd like to call Mick Nelson with Nelson Community Partners to say a word to us.
Woo!
Hey everybody. We're here today with some of our friends and partners, but I just want to share from the perspective of a developer who spends their days trying to make affordable housing projects happen, that developments like this one around the corner here that's absolutely beautiful, and the ones you'll hear about today after this, don't happen without the Barnes. Simple, they just don't exist. My friend Janet Arning from Inspiritus can't be here today, but because of Barnes, we were able to transform a rundown church basement into 80 units of deeply affordable housing for older adults, and a community center, and a client choice food pantry, all at one of the most desirable locations in town.
Woo!
Every day, my colleagues and friends and I are working on truly special projects like Inspiritus that I can't wait to share with all of you. But we know that many won't be able to happen without Barnes Funds. And so our committed nonprofit and faith partners with a heart to use their land to address Nashville's housing crisis will be left on the sidelines. Nashvillians tell us that affordable housing is their biggest concern. We also know that the Barnes Fund is our most effective tool. And so it seems like a no-brainer, to me at least, for the city to use less than 1% of its total budget to fully fund the Barnes Fund as recommended by the mayor's own Unified Housing Strategy.
I want to call on Elizabeth Graffentine from Springboard Landings. One of the really great things about the Barnes Fund is that it can be used for special kinds of housing. I want Elizabeth to talk about her.
Hello. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you, Noah, for having Springboard Landings out here to talk about our project. Springboard Landings is working to develop affordable housing for adults with developmental disabilities. This project would not be moving forward if it was not for the Barnes Fund. The Barnes Fund has invested almost $2.5 million in this project. They were first money in, and they took a chance on a young developer with a really special mission. They knew that we didn't want IDD adults slipping through the cracks, and so they said, "Yes, we will give you this money." So we really invest the full $30 million so that more specialized projects like this one can happen, so that Springboard Landings can build additional buildings. Springboard Landings is working on 19 affordable units specifically for development for adults with disabilities, and these units will allow these people to be empowered to be independent, while also wrapping them around with community and with services. Thank you so much to the Barnes Fund. Please continue funding it so this can continue happening. And thank you to Noah for letting us be here.
Woo!
In addition to Clark Memorial making use of this property, there are other folks making use of old church property. And I want to call on Zach Likens to come talk about Trinity Community Commons.
Trinity Community Commons is a neighborhood nonprofit in East Nashville, and we are transforming a former United Methodist Church site into a community hub for all of our neighbors. And because of the Barnes Fund, we also get to build 22 affordable, permanent supportive homes for families who need them.
Woo!
This would not be possible without the Barnes Fund. Ever since the United Methodist Church started Trinity in 2013, our mission has been to show radical hospitality, to welcome friends and neighbors into communities of connection and belonging. And the single biggest barrier to our mission, to that type of community that we all long to see, is the lack of housing. It's displacement. We need to, as a city, invest fully in this fund so that more neighborhoods, like North Nashville and East Nashville, your neighborhood and my neighborhood, can become places where all people belong. A couple months ago, I met a neighbor whose grandmother grew up going to the former Trinity United Methodist Church, where our nonprofit operates. She showed me pictures on her phone of activities that her grandmother brought her to. This space was the primary place of connection, of meaning, of identity, of belonging for her, and she is homeless now. She cannot afford to live in the neighborhood that she grew up in and that for generations her family has called home. So if we want to, as a city, live into our stated values of being a city of welcome, of belonging, where we want every neighbor to stay, we need to invest in the Barnes Fund. We need to invest in neighborhoods, and we need to invest in other nonprofits and churches that want to use their land and want to use their buildings, like Clark Memorial, to welcome more neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach, for the work you do and also for sharing the stories with us. You know, the stories from developers are really good, but I also want to hear some stories from people that spend time just talking to residents, folks that are struggling. And one of the best people I can imagine to do that is Jackie Sims, who's with Affordable Housing Resources. She spends lots of time listening to people pour their hearts out about their situation. So Jackie, would you come talk to us?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
The first thing I want to do is welcome you to my community. Matthew Walker, that's where I received my primary health care. My youngest daughter graduated from MLK, and the home where I lived for 17 years, as of this January, I can walk to from here. I have also been an organizer in both North Nashville and East Nashville 37205. I consider myself a affordable housing servant to the people. I spend a great deal of my time listening, as Mike said. I spend a great deal of time in housing court, and I spend a great deal of time just talking to folks. I spent 6 months before going to work at Neighborhood Resource Center with a backpack, just walking through this community and talking to people primarily about their housing. Right now, I am at Affordable Housing Resources as a consultant, and I still spend a lot of my time talking. We've had 2 events, barriers to home ownership, and my job is to go out in community, find the people, and bring them to the events. Last week, we had an event at Pleasant Green Baptist Church. The room was packed. People were just full of excitement about the possibility of getting on the path to home ownership. One lady I met, she has been in a 5-year plan to become a homeowner. This is her 5th year. She will probably get assistance with down payment for a home, which is wonderful. But where is she going to buy the home? Where is she going to find a home that she can afford? That's a problem. The Barnes Fund has gifted or granted quite a bit of funds to affordable housing resources. We've been building affordable housing for over 30 years. We can't build affordable housing unless it's congregate housing now because the dirt is too expensive. So not only do we need the Barnes Fund, we need a steady path where we know where that money is coming from year after year after year. We shouldn't be begging for this money. We need housing to provide a rooftop for the most important people in Nashville, the people who built this city, the people who sustain this city, the people who keep this city running.
Yep.
So it is incumbent upon each of us to demand from the city that that fund remain and there be a steady course for that money. This woman that I met last week, she needs to know that there's a place somewhere in Nashville that she can buy because she is ready. We need to be ready for her as well. Thank you.
Not had the chance to talk to Jackie, make an appointment with her afterwards to have a cup of coffee. She's worth it. I want to call on Matt Wilshire, who's the president of the Pathway Housing Fund, to talk to us about affordable housing and the Barnes Fund.
Thank you, Mike. Jackie, your big shoes to follow. Thank you for your passionate advocacy for real Nashvillians over the years. It's made a huge difference in people's lives, and I know those people firsthand. Thank you. And Dr. Coleman, thank you for not just creating this working group and your longtime advocacy, but since you were my boss when I was at MDHA, thank you for your leadership there. And Councilmember Allen, you were my council member, and then now all of our council members as an at-large. And during that tenure, you have both passionately and consistently and intelligently advocated for real solutions, including the Barnes Fund. And as you know, when we created the Barnes Fund, when I was serving in the mayor's office, we funded it first with money transferred from a fund that had been supported by the creation of the original convention center downtown. We can do things in this city when we put our mind to it. And I grew up attending Edgeley United Methodist Church with Mike. Mike, thank you for not just being a great MC today, but for your advocacy for affordable housing. I listened every Sunday to Reverend Barnes talk about the importance of housing affordability and of having mixed income communities, that we are all better when we live together. You don't have the rich folks over here and the poor folks over there, and never the twain shall meet. We need to have opportunities for us all to get to know each other, and the Barnes Fund is critical to that. Today, in particular, I want to talk to you about the preservation of NOAH. Not just Nashvillians organized for hope and action and hope, but the preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing. We heard developers talk today about how expensive it is to build housing. Even affordable housing costs $250,000, $300,000 per unit and more to build. Developers know that. And so when they see apartments that are serving working Nashvillians today that you can be acquired for $150,000, they think that they can put in $25,000 or $30,000 into that unit and then rent them out for $1,600. That's why housing options are disappearing. And the Barnes Fund plays a critical role in preserving those housing options for Nashvillians. So I call on the city, the council, to make sure that we fully fund the Barnes Fund, to make sure that we are able to hold on to the affordable housing that's still left in our city. And Dr. Shelton, I have some good news for you. The Pathway Housing Fund has already acquired 119 housing units that you can rent not for less than $1,200, but for $1,000 or less in rapidly developing neighborhoods, in Hermitage, in Donaldson, and as of last Wednesday, in Hillsborough Village, just a stone's throw from the church where Reverend Barnes spoke. And so We need to see more opportunities to hold on to the housing options we have before they disappear. Thank you.
Now, there are a couple of other affordable housing developers. I'm not sure if you're here or not. Is Ben Butler here? His work with Project Return is really important because they're building housing for folks that have come out of prison and they need a place. Are there any other affordable housing developers that we invited that are here? Well, if you'll look on your agenda, I have the job of a closing call to action. And then you get to, we'll take some questions and you'll get to hear some music from the Nashville Voices of Resilience Homeless Choir again. So you've heard about NOAA, you've heard about the need, you've heard about the Barnes Fund. By the way, Metro's Division of Housing asked the mayor to put $30 million in this year. Metro council members are asking for it. Even university presidents are asking for it. We've talked to some university presidents that had contacted the council and the mayor saying, we need this in the Barnes Fund. There's broad agreement on what needs to happen because the unified housing strategy is very clear. The Barnes Fund is Nashville's most significant local tool for affordable housing, and this calls for $30 million a year. That's not an aspiration, that's not a hope. This is what the crisis demands. And yet last year, Metro only invested 16. That gap matters. It weakens the very strategy that we adopted. Because either we believe in the unified housing strategy or we don't. In 10 years, the Barnes Fund has helped create or preserve more than 6,000 homes. That's real impact. But the strategy tells us we need 20,000 affordable homes in the next 10 years. That's 2,000 every year, especially for households under $32,000 a year. We will not meet that goal by underfunding our most effective tool. And here's the truth. You've heard it said before. Barnes works because it multiplies the impact. Every local dollar brings 9 or 10 more. So a $30 million investment turns into $300 million in housing. That's what we need. Serious investment in housing. Underfunding Barnes doesn't save money. It just leaves money on the table. I don't want to leave money on the table. There's too many people that need it. $30 million is just a small fraction of Metro's budget. You've heard that said. But housing stability is one of our city's deepest moral tests. And it shapes everything else. Education, health, workforce, the community. Budgets show what we value. And years from now, people won't ask what we intended. They'll ask, what did you fund? So this is the moment. Tomorrow, the mayor presents his budget. By June 30th, the council will adopt one, whatever that will look like. Our call to action is quite simple. We have to act together. We want you to contact the mayor, contact your council member. She's handing out some QR codes that will enable you to do that. Ask them to be a champion for the Barnes Fund. Ask your council member to be really a champion. That's what it takes. Somebody's willing to get out there and talk to other council members. Come speak at the June 2nd public hearing on the budget. Make your voice heard. Because as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, our lives begin to end the day that we are silent about things that matter. Does affordable housing matter?
Yes.
So let's not be silent. Let's act. Fund the Barnes Fund and build the future that Nashville deserves.
Yes.
Are there questions you'd like to ask of any of our presenters? And this is the way you can email the council and the mayor all together. Yes? I think it's. Did you hear his question? No. You're saying, so what's the deal with the advocacy since the ink on the mayor's budget is kind of dry by now? He's presenting it tomorrow. The advocacy is raising awareness of people because what we can see happening over and over is everybody says, yes, affordable housing is a problem, but we need to see something change now. By emailing and pressuring the mayor, we're raising that visibility. We're also making it easier for the council then to alter his budget. Oh, yes. Yeah, Noah meets we've done that for years. And he's been interested in talking, but we want to see some real investment. Other questions? Yeah. We're not trying to focus on any particular part of the county. We know there's need everywhere. I live in Antioch. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay, there's need everywhere. That's one of the interesting things. One of the professors at Vanderbilt told me not too long ago. In most cities, gentrification just sort of moves from one neighborhood to another. He said in Nashville, it all happens at once. Boom. Every place needs affordable housing.
I was going to respond to her about Antioch. I mean, a lot of people don't know that the Barnes Fund funds Habitat for Humanity project. And their latest project is in Antioch.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, President. Any other questions? Yeah. Thank you. Great question. He asked, are there other things Metro should be doing besides funding the Barnes Fund? The answer is yes. The Unified Housing Strategy that we mentioned a while ago had 43 separate actions that it was recommending. One of them is to make the Barnes Fund secure. We get $30 million a year for the Barnes Fund. Others have to do with issuing bonds. I think Matt would be glad to talk about that at some point. Public land, there are a lot of things there. But what we've been given in the Unified Housing Strategy is sort of like a menu at the restaurant. Which ones will we push on? I think it depends on how we organize together. It's a great menu, but let's push and make some of those things happen, starting with the Barnes Fund. Thank you for asking. Got other questions? Yeah, Avi.
So, I heard, I think maybe it was Miss Sims, she said that one of the problems is there's just not enough dirt. But
Yeah.
we do know they're not making any more land.
That's right.
So, but what if your family or you know people who have land available to that they might be willing to donate or give access to for these types of projects? Who would you go talk to about that?
She's asking who, if you have access through your family or something to potential land that might be used for development for affordable housing. I'd say talk to any of these folks that spoke a while ago. Jackie's a good one. Just talk to any of these folks and they can put you in touch with the Division of Housing too, because they might be able to help organize funding for that. Good question. Anybody else? Yes.
I'll just build on that and say
Yeah.
the council just passed in a somewhat controversial vote the ability to now put a mother-in-law cottage in the back of just about any place. So if you've got land room in your backyard, you can now build something that's affordable in your backyard and add income.
Did everybody hear her answer? She said the council just passed legislation that will allow the building of mother-in-law apartments in the backyard of almost any place in Nashville, and that has the potential to really bring some of the costs down. Other questions? Yeah, Irene.
Not so much a question, but just an experience I had years ago when I first moved into Germantown. And people were trying to bring Germantown back. So there was going to be a building that was going to have some Section 8 housing. And some of us had called together to oppose that. So I was sitting there at the meeting, and as they talked, I raised my hand and I said, I want to say something. I said, I qualify for Section 8 housing. Oh, no, we didn't mean you. I think people have a lot of stereotypes about who these people might be. And I just resent it so much.
I hope everybody heard that story. All right. Any other questions? Well, where's our musical?
They're right behind you.
They're getting ready. All right. Come on, your turn. By the way, they were asking what can be done by Metro, there's something you can do, and that is turn and talk to somebody next to you and get to know them a little bit. NOAA is about building relationships that can lead to action, and that's what we want to do with this. If you're at all interested, please talk to Claire or myself about being a part of the NOAA Affordable Housing Task Force. It takes somebody outside of government to nudge government along.
Yep.
Hello once again, everybody. My name is Nat Peters-Lopes. I am the director of the Nashville Voices of Resilience Homeless Choir. Thank you all for coming out here today and supporting NOAA and the Barnes Fund, and for inviting us to use our voices to support our community and stand up for what we believe in. And without further ado, we're going to be performing Stand Up.
I've been walking with my face into the sand, weight on my shoulders.